Okay, so the iPhone 13 mini. It's 2025, and I want to talk about this thing because it's quite literally my favorite iPhone of all time. Now, the crazy thing is that this 4-year-old device is literally worse in every single way compared to something like, the iPhone 16 Pro, the 15 Pro. My last video, I was reviewing the iPhone 16 Pro, and that thing is simply insane. Yet I love the 13 mini more than that device, despite it being worse in every single way. The display's worse, the camera's worse, the battery's worse, everything about it is pretty much worse. But there's one thing that I can't shake about this thing, and that it's so damn small. And this is easily my favorite device of all time when it comes down to iPhones. Now, maybe I'm one of those weirdos that, maybe I'm not the power user I once was, or I just have an infatuation with smaller tech. I love the iPad mini, the MacBook Air. Those are all my favorite Mac or iOS or Apple devices in general. And the 13 mini fits into that mix just because of the size alone. Now, that isn't to say there aren't compromises with this thing, but if we're saying the iPhone 16 Pro is, a 10 out of 10 device, this is like an 8.75 or a 9 out of 10 in terms of its full capability. But yeah, for the most part, this device is mostly uncompromising in the world of iPhones, despite being 4 years old. Now, as for me, again, I think I use my devices a little bit differently. I'm more decentralized from just using my iPhone, whereas, I like using my camera on the side. I play games primarily off of a game system or a PC or something. So I'm not like totally deep into my iPhones. And for the most part, I love using dumb phones. For the last 9 months or so before checking out the 16 Pro again, I was using a dumb phone. So something like the iPhone 13 mini makes me feel like I'm living in the future, which is why I love it that much more. Now, as for how I use this thing on the daily, it's not going to be the same as it used to be. I used to run my entire YouTube channel when I first started off of the iPhone 12 mini or the 13 mini. I can't remember which one. But as for now, I use this thing as my media player. I listen to music when I'm in the shower. I use this thing as my alarm clock in the morning. I love to journal on this thing, believe it or not, using that journal app. And all the normal iPhone things that people love to do on here. So if that goes to say anything at all of those things I mentioned specifically are going to be identical to an iPhone from 10 years ago, an iPhone 16 Pro, 15 Pro. They're all the same when it comes down to the actual day-to-day usages, not to mention, iMessage and FaceTime and just the whole Apple ecosystem. We all love AirDrop and those things. It's going to be the same on the 13 mini. Now, if we're going a little bit deeper, let's talk about the performance of the 13 mini. And funny enough, again, coming from the 16 Pro last week to the 13 mini this week, I don't really notice that much a difference. Now, naturally, of course, there are going to be some differences. There's no Apple Intelligence, if you even care about that. I personally think it's a little gimmicky. I don't really care for Apple Intelligence. If anything, I can just use ChatGPT for most of the stuff that Apple Intelligence is good for. But when you take a look into the actual performance from an OS standpoint, everything is still near instant. All the games that I'd want to play whenever I do play them on here is near instant. From a gaming standpoint, I love playing Grand Theft Auto on here. I love playing Balatro on here. Addicting ass game. I've said that like 20 times. I love playing True Skate on here, which is like tech deck with your fingers on your screen, which is pretty awesome. And those games run identical on here as they did on my 16 Pro. So whatever chipset's in here, the A12 or the A13 Bionic, whatever the hell it is at this point, it's still insanely powerful even 4 years down the road. So whatever was good enough for people as a flagship chipset in 2021 doesn't magically become bad. And I gotta say, it still holds up incredibly well in 2025. And I gotta say, this makes me want to try something like, I don't know, the iPhone XS. That device was sick too. And this 13 mini makes me want to try that to see if it holds up well in 2025. But anyways, that's another video for another day. Now, one of the other things I've been using for 2-3 years at this point is a MagSafe tripod. And it's almost one of those things that you see almost every creator use right now because it's a damn good product. Full disclosure, Moft is sponsoring this portion of today's video. But again, I have been using their invisible tripod stand for about 2 or 3 years at this point, and so have a lot of other creators. Now, what's new about this tripod stand this year is it's now a 3-in-1 option because it does have a wallet update to it. Whereas before it was just the tripod, now it actually has a wallet card holder here that can hold up to 2 cards. So that is awesome, especially for anybody who wants a more minimal carry. Now, naturally, of course, by the name itself, you can probably tell this is a tripod. And it's an awesome solution, especially when you're on the go, because it does give you a load of angles you can use for a whole ton of different things. They have this sort of floating mode, as they call it, which allows you to sort of either set up vertically or horizontally with your device. And that lets you get a whole ton of different angles, whether that's going to be, macro photography or videography, normal angle setups if you're getting, wide and establishing shots, or otherwise you can fit this as a tripod with your phone into super tight spaces. Like I've used this in the past on cabinets and stuff. Plus you can also bend the hinge here and use this as a bit of a vlogging setup if that's something that you really want to try. Otherwise, again, you can always just angle this to be a stand or otherwise watch any sort of media on here, which is totally awesome. Now, naturally as well, MagSafe is MagSafe. So this does connect again by MagSafe to your device, but for any sort of non-MagSafe compatible devices, there is a ring available inside the package as well, which is awesome. I personally, again, as somebody who uses other devices, not just iPhone, I did attach one to my Light Phone 3. So I'm able to use this again as my wallet / tripod stand for even things like my Light Phone, which is awesome. And honestly, the tripod itself is incredibly small, so it's going to fit into any sort of bag or pocket or whatever else. Again, this is the invisible 3-in-1 tripod from Moft. So if you do want to check it out, link down below. And thank you, Moft, for sponsoring a portion of today's video. Now, as a content creator and somebody who simply just loves making videos, I love using iPhones as a dad cam. I've talked about the dad cam way too many times on this channel. If you're not a creator and you just love, the camera for it being a good camera, always take videos and document things digitally just for yourself, if nobody else, or for you and your family, or whatever the case is. But again, if the camera on the 16 Pro was a 10 out of 10, this is also an 8.75 out of 10. Again, when it comes down to that 10 out of 10 scale, the camera on here is absolutely incredible. When I started this YouTube channel, I started using just my iPhones. As much as I don't film on iPhones as much as I did before, I could still use this as the main camera for this YouTube channel. And that's the crazy thing about it. There are Android flagships that release today that still don't hold a candle to the 13 mini, which is crazy. So I gotta say, you're gonna be perfectly set on here. Later on in this video, once I'm sort of done the meat of this review, I am actually gonna start filming on the 13 mini camera for the second half of this video, just because I can. And I wanna showcase how capable the camera is on here. Is it gonna be as good as a real camera? Absolutely not. That's besides the point. The camera on here is still insane. And this thing's 4 years old, and it still impresses me with what it can do. Now, that isn't to say there aren't some compromises. I've talked about how impressive the 16 Pro camera was, and that is on a whole nother level, I gotta say, with just the pure feature sets alone. There's a couple things I'm personally missing. That's gonna be the telephoto lens on the 16 Pro is awesome. You got that 5x telephoto lens, and the lens capabilities on there are just excellent. I think it's 48 megapixels. So when you digital zoom to a 2x optical, it still looks good. Whereas if you try to zoom in on here with the digital crop, it starts to break up a little bit compared to the 16 Pro. And then there's, the features like cinematic mode in 4K 24 frames per second. I shoot all of my videos in 4K 24 frames per second, and this doesn't have the ability in cinematic mode, which I did actually quite like on the 16 Pro. Not to mention Apple log shooting. So I shoot all my videos in log format. And I know this gets a little bit more technical on the whole video side and camera side of things, but I do love shooting in log. And the iPhone 16 Pro had that, whereas the 13 mini doesn't. Now again, being more decentralized now, more than ever when it comes down to my smartphone usage, that doesn't bother me all too much, which is why I'm perfectly fine with the camera on here. Now, over the last weekend, I went strawberry picking for the first time ever with my kids and my wife, and I used this camera as my main camera while I was there, and it sort of just reminded me how good it is. Again, apart from the camera, again, the Pro Series are going to be A++, and this is still going to be an A+. So nothing to worry about in terms of the camera, and I don't think you'll be disappointed, even for a 4-year-old device. I'll talk more about the battery. The battery's just not as good as it could be. It's obviously degraded being 4 years older, but accessory-wise, leather case. I love leather so much. I previously made my own leather wallets. I prefer natural materials, so I always slap a leather case on my 13 mini. This one's from Andar. Andar's a great company. I like them. The case smells good, feels good in hand. I love leather cases, plain and simple. So that's my go-to. The screen protector on here, I actually use a matte screen protector, and I'm sort of going to talk about that a little bit when I talk about the actual screen of this device. But the matte glass screen protector, it's going to take away from the screen a little bit, but I'm personally okay with that. I just like the way the matte screen protector looks. Again, as somebody who prefers, the whole dumb phone thing, A matte screen protector sort of mutes everything a little bit, and I just prefer how it looks. Likewise, as somebody who's recently got into reading over the last year, it gives it a bit of a e-reader or e-ink sort of vibe, and I appreciate that. Plus, obviously, screen protector protects the screen, so definitely something I have. And again, that battery pack is something that's almost necessary until I replace the battery on here. This thing, again, it's going on 4 years old, so my battery health is like 80-something%, which isn't that good. This doesn't get me through an entire day, even with light usage. Actually, I'd say with light usage, it probably gets me through an entire day, but 80-something% battery health isn't that good. So I'm probably going to book my battery replacement literally later this week. So if you're worried about battery and you're a super heavy user, you're going to want to get a battery bank like myself. Again, I use MagSafe battery packs. I have MagSafe in my desk setup. There's a charger in my car. It's just something that I have to actually be mindful of when it comes down to the battery on here. It's not going to carry you as, say, you know, an iPhone 16 or 15 Pro or something like that. That said, despite the battery being a little bit of a downside to this, the screen is still one of the better screens even in 2025. This is an OLED display, so if you're familiar with OLED, it gives you some of the best colors you can possibly have, especially when watching any sort of media. Literal actual blacks, insanely poppy, punchy colors, infinite contrast. OLED is my preferred panel technology, despite my monitor here being, you know, LCD or whatever, but OLED is my go-to when it comes down to most pieces of tech where I have it available. Display, plenty bright outside. Even despite it not being, you know, a Pro model, it held up incredibly well. And everything on here just looks good. There's zero issues. And fun fact, the display on here on a 4-year-old device is better than the iPhone 16e that just came out. So food for thought. So yeah, the display, excellent. No complaints about the display. But yeah, on this channel, I don't particularly ever tell people to go out and buy something. That's not really what this channel is about. I review things in my own way, as crappy as my reviews can be sometimes, and then you guys can decide to go pick something up or not. But I gotta say, this is one of those things that you probably should go out and maybe consider getting if you're at all interested in the 13 mini, mainly because not only is the used stock or the refurbished stock super thin as it is, these are going to get harder and harder to get with time, and this device is simply unlike anything else. It's the last small iPhone, and I don't foresee Apple making anything else like this. So as long as it's performing as well as it is, I love this flipping thing. And if I lost this, I would buy another one if I could find a good one in a good shape or whatever else. Likewise, I'm going to replace the battery as long as I can. As long as I can find third-party batteries, or as long as Apple supports battery replacement program on here, I'm going to do it. And honestly, devices like this sort of make me think about something like the iPhone XS, which is an even older device. But I loved that device, similar to the iPhone X. So I think I might actually see if I can find one used at a good price and see how that thing holds up in 2025, because that also has an OLED display and all that fun stuff. And plus, this thing still has, again, iOS 26, if that's something you care about with the new overhaul and all that stuff. And yeah, this thing is absolutely sick. But with that, I'm going to do some goodies unboxing. I have some goods from Grovemade and some vinyls that I want to sort of film. And I'm going to do that all on the iPhone, just to sort of take me back to when I started this whole channel in the first place on the iPhone. But yeah, that's the iPhone 13 mini, and let's get to the unboxing. So today I want to film this part of the video on the iPhone 13 mini, and here are the settings that I'm using. I typically will mess around with the different camera options, whether that's Kino, the Kino camera app, Blackmagic camera app, as well as the new Final Cut camera. That one's not that bad. And then there's just the regular camera app. And I'm actually just using the regular camera app today because I didn't want to, you know, fuss too much about it. But I'll leave my settings up here on how I do it. I do color grade a little bit, even though it's just, you know, normal. This isn't log footage or anything, but you can still technically color grade it. So I'll leave some of my settings up here as well for that. Now, I like to film in 4K 24 FPS, and this does an incredible job at it. I actually personally wish this had 4K 24 FPS for cinematic mode. So I will say that might be one of the things that the 13 mini can't do, because of, I'm going to go ahead and assume it's processing power. I assume the camera sensor could do it, but maybe they don't have the processing power on the A12 Bionic, A13, whatever the hell is in this phone. But yeah, anyhow, this is how the camera looks straight out the normal camera app. And I'm going to do some goodies unboxings today. So the first things I have is, I got some stuff from Grovemade. Grovemade, they make some expensive stuff. It is hella expensive, but their stuff is nice, as expensive as it is. So the first thing I'm going to use to unbox everything is a task knife. So this is sort of just a knife that you use to open letters, I guess, or unboxing things. Hopefully the sound is okay. So for anybody wondering, I'm using a Lark M2 microphone connected through my iPhone. Hopefully it sounds okay. But this task knife here is like a solid chunk of metal that you use to open stuff. So I figured it'd be the perfect one to sort of start with. Now the first thing I have here is a keychain, a key ring from Grove Made as well. This is going to replace my keys, which is just, you know, a jumbled mess. So this little key ring will do a good job at making it look a little bit cooler. Nothing crazy. And one of the things I have to say about the iPhone is that for anybody who's thinking about content creation and you think you need to get a camera, don't get a camera. Honestly, just start by using the cameras built into a smartphone or an iPhone, because it's literally just point and shoot. You don't have to do anything about it. I mean, it does a great job. Right now, this is like a low light environment, if I'm completely honest. I'm in my dark ass basement. And I mean, I don't know if the footage looks good because I can't see what the hell I'm filming. I don't even know if I hit record. We'll see. Anyhow, item number 2 is, I don't know what this is. Is this my new wallet? This is a wallet. I think it's metal or plastic, or that's leather. Oh my gosh. This is a wallet. I'm going to have to figure out how to use this. I don't know what the hole is for. I think that's for pressing cards out. I don't know how this works. I'll have a little clip after, but this is a new wallet they sent over. Task knife, wallet, keychain, and let's see what's in here. Okay, so this is one of my favorite things. So one of the things I have to talk about is a part of the iPhone as well. And I spoke about this on when I talked about the iPhone 16 Pro, is that I love journaling. And I didn't always love journaling, but the iPhone has a built-in journaling app, which I used a ton. That's actually what made me start journaling. I don't write anything crazy. I literally just do a couple jot notes a day. And more recently, the iPhone's 13 mini, not just the 13 mini, they all have access to iOS 26, iPadOS 26 for the new update coming this fall. And now there's continuity between Mac, iPad, and iPhone when doing any sort of journaling. But this set is a part of my paper journaling set. And this is a set of pencils from Blackwing. And these pencils are, I assume, very expensive, but they're perfect for a, what's in here. So in here is a solid wood pencil holder, which has a sharpener. So this is a pencil sharpener that goes, and then the pencils go in here. And so I already have one of these in my basement setup, but I'm actually gonna have this in my other setup as well because I am a bit of a journaling nut now. So I journal a lot every single day. And so this pencil set helps me towards that. Now, that's gonna be it for my Grove Made goodies. And I'm gonna get into the vinyl records. Now, again, if anybody knows how addicted I am to my music, I started collecting vinyl maybe a year ago. And as much as I love my digital content, I love Apple Music, I love the quality of it, but there's something special, A, about collecting something you love, and B, the sound of it. There's something special about vinyl. Or maybe I'm just a pretentious asshole, I don't know, we'll see. But let's see what is in the first one. So the first vinyl is Welcome to the Black Parade, My Chemical Romance. I'm huge into my punk rock and emo music from the 2000s. Welcome to the Black Parade is one of the best albums of all time. Absolute no skip record. Love that one. If you know, you know. And the next one, this record from the Fratellis, Costello Music. This is the only record I like from this band. It's, I don't even know what genre of music, indie, maybe, folk, maybe a little bit of a folkiness to them. And this whole record as well is no skip. And back in, I think 2008, I had this thing on repeat at a skate shop. Funny enough, I worked at a skate shop called West 49. I'm in Canada. And we had this record on repeat for an 8-hour shift. Love this record. If anybody else likes Costello Music, you know, you know. I have 2 more vinyls. Let's see what else we have. Imagine I didn't hit record and I can't tell. That would suck. My Apple Watch, you can actually viewfind what you're filming. So my Apple Watch is my viewfinder for the iPhone 13 mini, and I am filming. We're 8 minutes in. I'm gonna have to trim this up a bit. Record number 3 is Sticks and Stones by New Found Glory. Again, going back to my punk rock from the 2000s, New Found Glory is one of the big greats for me. And this record is an absolute banger. This record is absolutely no skip, and that's a going trend. For the vinyls that I buy, I typically only ever buy the vinyls that I find no skip, and then I'll move on to the other vinyls that, you know, you might not care for the whole record, but there's something special about just tossing on an entire record and listening to it start to finish. It's a little bit different than the digital playlists I dive into on the daily. And for the last one, we've got my favorite band of all time, Blink-182. This is their self-titled 2003 album. You guessed it, absolute no skip. So we've got 3 punk rock records and 1 indie folk. I don't know what you consider their Fratellis, but Blink-182, self-titled 2003. This record is, again, probably one of the best bangers of the generation. But yeah, that's all I have today for the unboxing and goodies. And I think I might wrap this video up before I bore you guys with with too much nonsense. But yeah, that's it. These are some of the goodies from Grove Made. I really appreciate that. And these records are going to be obviously in rotation and on repeat. But yeah, again, in terms of filming on the iPhone, there's nothing more simple, more easy, and the quality is incredible. So if anybody's thinking about starting a YouTube channel, or even just using it as a dad cam, which I've talked about hundreds of times, which I've talked about a ton of times by now, use the iPhone to make dad cam videos. The iPhone does a great job when it comes down to family videos and stuff. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for me today. I do appreciate you guys watching till the end. Till next time.